Hello, everyone. Ted Clayton here. I made a video yesterday titled Because of Heightism, I Don't Want to Work. And in essence, what I was sharing was my reasons for not or no longer wanting to be part of the workforce due to this prejudice that I've been experiencing for a very long time. Now, that doesn't mean to say that I don't want to still engage in my endeavors, my creative endeavors, pursue some of my interests, and maybe perhaps go into business on my own. However, because of this bias, this prejudice, and I would even go as far as to say bigotry, has made it difficult to maintain a job. However, in this video, in the last video that I did, it was pretty long. I was just sharing all these, it was really three reasons, but I was going in depth into each of the reasons and sharing anecdotes and illustrations, what have you. But I wanted to make an abridged version, just stating the points, whereas one can see this video, get the main points in a very concise manner, and if they want to, they can go and check out that other video. That way they can get a more in-depth explanation. Again, I just got into it, and I wanted to, it was something that was pretty serious for me. It was something that was concerning as far as me having that sentiment, because I never, it was something always that was in the back of my mind for a long time, but it was, and I shared this in the video as well, it wasn't until I applied to a job about 2 months ago. After seeing the job, it was a perfect fit. I thought I was a perfect fit for it. I had enough experience, and I thought I would definitely stand out. And that's besides the point. I'm reading everything. I'm looking at the job. I'm looking at the listing, and after seeing all that, the next thought that came up to me just instantaneously out of nowhere was height, and that was people are probably going to perceive me a certain way, and that's going to have an effect on what would happen. Not only the interview process, maybe that would be an issue in and of itself, but if I were to be hired, then how that will affect the dynamics of being a part of that team. And again, I'm just going to put this out there. For those that may just be seeing this video, that's not to say that because people will definitely argue that's a defeatist mindset. However, I disagree. I think it can be crippling if one allows it to be. But at the same time, I do think that it's a mindful approach where if you see that there's a certain potential obstacle, plan accordingly. And then one can have a better outcome, a more desirable outcome, or at least just avoid it in general and save the headache, save the hassle. So the three reasons that I give are, and the first one, it's really one main reason and two other supporting reasons. The main reason, the first one, is perception. So the argument that I'm making, or what I'm sharing, the claim is what's happening here is that people are looking at short men through a certain lens. And when people have a certain perception and unconscious bias, then things can become very difficult, especially if it's an unconscious bias. And we all know the old saying, perception is reality. And one illustration that I give so that people can look for themselves as proof of this, what I think is proof. I do have anecdotes, personal anecdotes that I share, videos that I have, so you can check those out. And again, those are just the ones that I highlight, some that I think are just amusing or stand out so much that I want to share them. And there's definitely things that happen in between videos. But the best illustration I think I could give, or something that, as far as a sample size, is the Bagel Boss. As a test, I challenge anyone to, or not challenge, but I want people to go on any video, just type into YouTube, Bagel Boss, And look at any video, look at several videos. A lot of these videos are in the tens, even hundreds of thousands. Some I've even seen one or two that are close to 500,000 views. And if you look in the comments, and there's thousands of comments, almost everyone has the same sentiment. And it actually gets a little weird because it almost seems like they're repeating themselves. So again, an unconscious bias. It does seem, for lack of a better term, and I'm saying this from poetically speaking, it does seem a bit scripted. And then when you have someone who says something contrary, even something just an objective observation, but something different than anyone else, then no one is interacting with that person, or they may come down on that person. So that's something that I want to put out there as an illustration. Just a one example, but I think a fairly significant example. The second thing is workplace harassment. I've dealt with workplace harassment, unfortunately, too many times. And although I have a strong spirit, I do have to think about my health, my personal health, not only my mental health, but my physical health as well. And yes, with workplace harassment, a lot of these things just go on. It doesn't matter. It comes with the territory. And that, I totally understand that. However, I dealt with a lot of things that I would argue went far beyond politics. And some to the point that it reached the point of a potential physical threat. And I give some examples in that video that I had done yesterday. Now, what I really was trying to illustrate in that is, yes, of course, stress equals death. We've seen the scientific studies on this, so that goes without saying. However, the point that I'm really trying to make is, if, again, tying this with the first point, if there's an unconscious bias, right? Let's put that out as a given. But then people may escalate things. In the last video, as an example, I was sharing that where I had dealt with a situation that presented itself as a potential physical threat. I was working in customer service, and I was actually in a pretty rough neighborhood. So this is stuff that's more common in these kind of environments. However, what I'm trying to convey is the mindset, where if people are putting themselves in a certain mindset, then in one environment they may express it physically, but in another they may express it in a different way. So they may just be more creative, but it's still, that intent is still there. Forgive me, I had to do an edit. Because the introduction and the first 2 points were great, I didn't want to do the video all over again. Normally, I like to do one take, but again, I didn't want to waste time. So I'm going to continue with the third example, the third point, and that's lack of opportunities. Now, because I've worked in so many places over the past 2 decades, I'm faced with the situation that I no longer have options of where I can work, because I virtually worked everywhere, at the very least here in New York City. Now, on one hand, if one were to look at my resume, either my general resume for customer service positions, or basically anything outside of audio, and then my audio resume, one would see that I've worked for reputable companies, notable companies, well-known companies, popular brands. Yes, that does say something about me, my character, work ethic, reputation, etc. And to an extent, yes, that's correct, because I've been in these places, excelled. But on the flip side, unfortunately, I wasn't able to be at one place, and then after so much time has elapsed, build a career, or just settle. So again, I'm faced with the situation of not having any options of where to work. Now, some may say that, well, just work anywhere. And I don't agree with that, technically that's possible. At the same time, not everyone could fit anywhere. I mean, that's experience. I would actually go as far as to say personality. There's also expertise, etc. But in general, what I mean to say is I don't think anyone could just be at work at any job. It's a certain personality type, a certain kind of mentality for different kinds of jobs. And I would even include height as a factor, as a form of filter. The biggest example I can give is a security guard. Now, that's not, again, and I don't look at this as something that discourages me in any kind of way. I do have a strong spirit, but I also know I can acknowledge that I'm not going to be a threat from someone just observing me. I don't have an issue with that on a personal level. I accept that. I mean, one can even say that that's an advantage. But as far as where a place of employment is concerned, that's definitely a disadvantage. So yes, in some positions, height can actually be an issue, but I'm talking more about personality and mind state, mentality. And I'm not even factoring in how COVID, recent pandemic, is playing into the job market, how the job market has changed. I'm not factoring that in, although that is something that does need to be taken into consideration. But in general, this is something that people just have to adapt to, regardless of the circumstance. So those are the three examples. Again, it's perception, which again is the focal point, is the main rationale, and then the two supporting points is workplace harassment and lack of opportunities. I will say also, just as a side note, I haven't shaved. Please don't judge me off that. It's just been a difficult few days. So this is me after 3, 4 days of not shaving. So just to put that out there. So that's that. But one of the things that I do want to do is, as you see right now, I'm in an office space and I keep myself busy. So it's not that I'm saying I don't want to work and just waste time, just waste away my life, just not do anything. It's more, I'd rather focus on other things. And I actually see a legitimate obstacle on one end. And just to give an example, or just to illustrate some of the things that I do here to show where I can be, where I can better use my time while I'm on the internet. I'm always on the comment section, right? I'm on YouTube or Facebook, social media in general, and I'm in the comment section. Now, one could say, well, you're just, again, just wasting time on social media. That's not really anything important or anything relevant. Well, I disagree. It depends on what one is doing. I see that as a form of engaging in public discourse. And for me, of course, I'm going to have times where I'm just going to, make a joke about something or what have you. But if there's a discussion that's happening, or just maybe have just some, just share just a random thought or whatever. If there's a discussion happening and and I see kind of a trajectory, or I can see where I can contribute to that, that's adding to, or that's being a part of a public discourse, which is instrumental or important in our society, and especially in a time of social change. Facebook, specifically Facebook, again with social media, but specifically Facebook. I actually see myself as someone that helps people, or has helped people with their mental health. And I know that's kind of a big statement to make. I will say I do have a mental health first aid certificate from New York State, New York City. But again, just yes, I can observe certain patterns, certain trends, and I can approach it in a certain way, and that's helping my close circle of friends, or just my connections. So I do see it as some assistance, some kind of contribution that I'm giving. Again, not wasting time, and in general, being online, it's following current events, and I do see that as how example what I'm doing now, or what I'm doing with YouTube, where I'll give commentary on current events, social issues, pop culture, you name it. But again, giving commentary on things that are relevant for everyone, things that are relevant in general, and giving my opinions to bring further discussion into the matter to try to find some resolution. But again, just again to encourage a discussion. So again, just wanted to create a more abridged version to the longer video, so that people can get a more concise explanation as to my argument. And again, I'll put a link in the description to the other video so people can check that out, where I give a more in-depth explanation in regards to the 3 points. Well, that's all for now. Thank you for listening. Enjoy the rest of your day.